Okay, so I think I will start a new system today. We will look at the reproductive system, anatomy and physiology. All right, so reproductive system, or basically reproduction, happen to be one of the biological processes through which living organisms produces offsprings. Is that okay? So if you take human beings as living organisms, we produce offsprings. And one of the systems that are actively responsible for that process is the reproductive system. Okay, so when we look at the concept of reproduction, a reproductive system or reproduction basically is a process through which living organisms produce offsprings. Okay, that ensures the continuation of their species. Okay, and basically this is the main function of the reproductive system. Okay, for the purpose of reproduction. Okay, so that we are able to produce offsprings. Okay, offsprings for the continuation of our species. Okay, but apart from that, reproduction helps to maintain population stability. Okay, again, reproduction also enables the transfer of genetic materials. So for some of you, if you look, you have some resemblance from your parents. Okay, some of you to even resemble some of your siblings. Okay, some of you even, your voice even looks like your parents. All this is because of reproductive system. Is that okay? For the transfer of genetic materials. All these concepts, okay, these occurrences is as a result of the reproductive system. Reproductive system also ensures survival of species. Okay, so that the human species will not die out. Is that okay? And that's how come every now and then we have human beings on earth. Even as people are dying, new people are being born, new human beings are being born. All is because of the reproductive system. Okay, again, the reproductive system plays a role in evolution. Is that okay? Evolution, the reproductive system plays a role in evolution. Okay, now when we say reproductive system, now the reproductive system is made up of group of organs. Okay, so it's not one particular organ forming the reproductive system. We have group of organs that comes together to enable reproduction through production of gametes, through fertilization, okay, and also even in females, fetal development, it's also happening or going to happen in the reproductive system. Okay, so when we say reproductive system, we have this group of organs. We have group of organs that are coming together, but the main work they are coming to do is to enable reproduction process to go on through the production of gametes, meaning some of the organs would help with the production of gametes. That's for both males and females. So for males, production of the sperms, and for females, production of the eggs. Okay, again, for the purpose of fertilization, the entire reproductive engine plays a role in fertilization. Okay, and for females, even for females, when it comes to the point where they have conceived and the fetal development have to go on, it also happens in the reproductive system. Okay, so basically, reproductive system, we have group of organs that are coming together to ensure all these processes goes on. Okay, another point is that the human reproductive system is the only body system that can create a new life. Okay, and it tells you this very system is a very special system. The only system in the human body that can create a new life is the reproductive system, is the human reproductive system. That's the only system in your body that can create a new life. Is that okay? Yes, and that is very unique. That particular function is very unique to the human reproductive system. Is that okay? Now, the last point that I want to make is that this system actually works in close coordination with the endocrine system. Okay, the endocrine system regulates hormones like the estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and all several other hormones. The reproductive system works in close coordination with the endocrine system. So there are several reproductive activities or processes that before they will occur, the endocrine system, one way or the other, have to be activated. Is that okay? Great. So this system works in close coordination with the endocrine system. Because you see, if you take the reproductive system, there are sometimes processes in reproductive system may sometimes depend on certain hormones. Okay, hormones like estrogen, hormones like progesterone, hormones like testosterone. Okay, so when it even comes to sperm cell development, it's under the influence of hormones like the testosterone. Okay, the same thing applies to the female egg development. It's also under the influence of estrogen and progesterone. Is that okay? Yes. So the reproductive system works in close coordination. That is what we mean. It works in close coordination, sometimes under the influence of the endocrine system. Okay, great. Great. And then evolutionally, and that is what I was saying, reproductive system plays a central role in evolution. Okay, evolution. So evolutionally, reproductive system help pass traits that are best suited for survival. Because you see, when it comes to creating new life, it's not about just giving birth to a new person or just about giving birth. One key point is the ability to pass on traits. Is that okay? So if you want to understand this properly, you can look at your family. You may see some resemblance. Some of you, even your siblings, you may look just like your siblings. That's the trait, that's the evolution that we are talking about. So that you are able to pass the traits in a particular generation from one generation to another. Is that okay? Some of you, the families you come from, you are intelligent. Some of you, the families you come from, you have
Sir, please, the line is breaking.
voices. Hello, can you hear me?
Your line was breaking then.
All right. Is it better now?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. So that is where evolution. So I was talking about evolution. Is that okay? So evolution has got to do with that ability to pass on, the traits in a particular family from one generation to another. Is that okay? So it's a biological process, okay, where organisms change over successive traits from one generation to another. So I was giving an example that some of you, for example, if you take intelligence, for example, sometimes if you ask, they will tell you, oh, some of your great grandfathers, they were intelligent, or your grandparents were intelligent. So you see, the ability for a particular species of organism to pass on successive, is that okay? Successive traits from one generation to another. That is where evolution comes in, and it's very important. Is that okay? It's very important, and that is where hereditary, characteristics are passed on from one generation to another. Is that okay? And that is where evolution comes, and this is possible because of the reproductive system. Evolution is possible because of the reproductive system. Is that okay? So there are some of you, if you should even trace back, for example, if you have a very nice voice, if you should trace back, you'd get to know that probably someone have lived from your family line who was also having a good voice. Is that okay? So that ability where successive generations tend to inherit certain hereditary characteristics or hereditary characteristics or certain, characteristics are passed on from one generation to another. That is where evolution comes in. And evolution is basically because it's happening because of the reproductive system. Is that okay? Yes. So it's the reproductive system that helps us to pass on traits. Is that okay? That are best suited for survival of future generations. Okay. And when it even comes to females, reproductive system performs multiple roles. Female reproductive system is not just about sexual function, not just about sexual function, not just about the female secondary sexual characteristics development, not just that. Compared to the males, female reproductive system is even much complex. Okay, and their own even goes on and on to pregnancy, childbirth. When it even comes to childbirth, the reproductive system plays a massive role when it comes to childbirth. Okay, great. So, and that's the uniqueness of the reproductive. That's the uniqueness of the reproductive system. Okay, so like I mentioned, this is the only system that is able to create new life. Okay, that's the only system that is able to create new life. Now, let's look at the reproductive system. Just like we've been saying throughout all the systems we've looked at so far. Now, when you say a system or when you hear system, it means we have to be talking about organs. Every system is made up of a group of organs. Now, for the reproductive system, we will look at the male reproductive system. Then we will now look at the female reproductive system. So we will look at the male reproductive system, meaning we are going to look at organs that forms the male reproductive system. And usually we call them the male reproductive organs. Then we will look at organs that forms the female reproductive system. And we call those ones the female reproductive organs. Is that okay? Now, when we look at the male reproductive organs, let me show you the image. So for the male reproductive organs, this is how they look like. We have the testes, we have the scrotum, we have the epididymis, we have the penis. Okay, so we have the testes, we have the epididymis, we have the vas deferens, we have the seminal vesicles, we have the prostate gland. There's the prostate gland here. There's the prostate gland. Okay, we have the penis, we have the urethra. There's the urethra. Okay, we have the urethra over here. There's the urethra here. So there's the urethra. And then we have the scrotum. There's the scrotum, where we have the testes. So when we say male reproductive organs, or we ask you to list the male reproductive organs, these are the male reproductive organs. So we have the testes, we have the epididymis, we have the vas deferens. There's the vas deferens. This one is the vas deferens. So look at it very well. There's the vas deferens. There's the vas deferens. There's the vas deferens. So we have the testes, we have the epididymis, we have the vas deferens, we have the seminal vesicles. These are the seminal vesicles. Look at it very well. Can you see the seminal vesicles? These are the seminal vesicles. Yes, these are the seminal vesicles. Then we have the prostate gland. There's the prostate gland. This one, there's the prostate gland. And then we have the penis. There's the penis. We have the urethra. There's the urethra. From here, there's the urethra. And then we have the scrotum. So when we say organs of the male reproductive system, it means we are talking about the testes, the epididymis, the vas deferens, the seminal vesicles. Okay. And then we have the prostate gland. There's the prostate gland. The prostate gland. Okay, there's the vas deferens. There's the urethra. Here is the urethra. There's the penis. Okay, there's the epididymis here. And then we have the testes over here. So there's the testes. There's the epididymis. And then we have the scrotum. Is that okay? So basically, when we say organs of the male reproductive system, this is what we are talking about. These are the organs. Basically, these are the organs of the male reproductive system. Okay, and at least know how to label this diagram. So, for example, here, if we point this one, you should know this is the vas deferens. So you see the vas deferens is connecting from the epididymis. Okay, it's connecting from the epididymis down to go and join the tube from the seminal vesicle. Is that okay? Yes. So you should know. So ideally, when we point this, you should know this is the vas deferens. Okay. When we point this, you should know this is the urethra. This is the penis. This is the prostate gland. This is the seminal vesicle. Okay. When we point this, you should know this is the testis. This is the scrotum. And this one is the epididymis. Is that okay? So basically, these are the organs of the male reproductive system. Okay. Now, what is the testis? The testis is the one that produces the sperm and the hormone called testosterone. So in male reproductive system, the testis produces what? The testis produces the sperms and the hormone called testosterone. Is that okay? So this is the testis. This is what we are talking about. The testis. This is what produces the sperm and the hormone called testosterone. Is that okay? And the testis, the testis is the male gonad. Okay, that's the male. That's what we also call the male gonad. So when we say male gonad, we are talking about the testis. And that's what produces the sperm and the hormone testosterone. Okay, then we have the epididymis. Okay, now when the sperms are produced in the testis, they are sent into the epididymis to be stored. So when we ask you what is epididymis, this is where sperms are stored. And the sperms also mature in the epididymis. So the sperms are produced in the testis. They are sent to the epididymis to be stored and matured there. Is that okay? So when we ask you where are the sperms produced, they are produced in the testis. Where are they stored? They are stored in the epididymis. Where are they matured? They are matured in the epididymis. Is that okay? Yes. So sperms are produced basically in the testis, but they are sent to the epididymis to be stored temporarily. And then they also matures within the epididymis. Okay. Now let's look at the vas deferens. The vas deferens. Now the vas deferens, the sperms are produced over here in the testis. Then they are moved into the epididymis to be stored. Now, in a situation where we want the sperm to be transported to the urethra, it goes through the vas deferens. So the vas deferens transports the sperm. So you see the vas deferens from here. You see the vas deferens is connected to the epididymis. So from here coming down into the urethra. So the vas deferens transports what? The sperm from the epididymis into the urethra. So when we ask you what is the vas deferens transports sperms from the epididymis to the urethra. So when we ask you what is the vas deferens, it transports sperm from the epididymis to the urethra. That's the vas deferens. Is that okay? Okay, where are the sperms produced? Which of the organs produces sperms?
The testis.
Testis.
Yes, the testis. Good, excellent. Which of the organs produces the hormone testosterone?
The
The gonad.
testis.
The
Good.
testis.
Yes, the male gonad. That's the testis. Yes, excellent. And where are the sperms stored and where do they mature?
The epididymis.
Yes, that is where the sperms are stored and matured. And if you want the sperms to be transported from the epididymis into the urethra, which organ or structure will be used?
Vas deferens.
Vas deferens.
The vas deferens. Is that okay? The vas deferens. Now let's come to the seminal vesicles. Let's come to the seminal vesicles. Now this is the seminal vesicles. Look at it again. This one. This is the seminal vesicles. Is that okay? Now, these seminal vesicles, what they do is that they add fluid to nourish the sperm and form semen. Is that okay? Semen. So you see, the sperms are produced over here. The sperms, they are produced over here. So When they are produced over here, they come to the epididymis to be stored. And during release, they go through the vas deferens into the urethra. Now, when they get to this point, the seminal vesicles can add a fluid, will add a fluid to it, which will nourish it. So when the fluid, the seminal fluid, so that fluid, we call it the seminal fluid. When the seminal fluid adds to the sperm, then now we call it semen. So when we say semen, it means that a sperm that we've added the seminal fluid to it. But don't worry, in some textbooks, you see them even saying the testis produces semen. It's not a problem. It's just about you understanding the process. But the ideal thing is that the testis produces the sperm. It moves into the epididymis to be stored. When it is being released, it goes through the vas deferens. But then when it gets to where we have, so you see, there's the vas deferens. Look, there's the vas deferens. When it gets to this point, the seminal vesicles will add the seminal fluid to it. Now, when we add the seminal fluid to the sperm, we call it semen. Have you gotten it? That is what we call semen. Okay. But in some books, you see them even saying that the testis produces the semen. But for you to have the semen, it means the seminal vesicles have added their fluid to the sperm. Then it becomes what? A semen. Okay, great. Now, when it gets to the prostate gland would also add a fluid. The prostate gland also add a certain fluid. We call it the prostatic fluid. And that is the fluid that helps the sperm to move and survive. Okay, let me go over it again. So I mentioned that the sperms are produced in the testis. When they are produced in the testis, they move into the epididymis to be stored. Now, for the sperm to get to the urethra, it goes through the vas deferens. But when it gets to this point, okay, when it gets to the seminal duct, this area, when it gets to this point, the seminal vesicles also produces the seminal fluid and add it to it. Now, the fluid is going to do two things. The fluid, it nourishes the sperm. It nourishes it, meaning it makes it vital, gives it more nutrients. Okay, and when the seminal vesicle adds its fluid to the sperm, it becomes the semen. Is that okay? So during sexual intercourse, when males release, what is coming out is a semen, not a sperm. Is that okay? The sperm is what has been produced in the testis. Okay, when the seminal vesicle adds the fluid, it becomes a semen. Is that okay? Great. It's not a sperm. Okay. Good. So when we say a semen, it means a sperm that we've added the seminal fluid to it. Then we say a semen. Is that okay? So no, understand it so that when you are communicating to people, you know how to explain it to them. Okay, good. And I mentioned that for the semen, the prostate gland even also adds another fluid to it. We call that one the prostatic fluid. Is that okay? What that fluid will do is that fluid is what is going to help the sperm to move and also enables the sperm to survive. Is that okay? Great. Then we have the penis. The penis is what delivers sperm into the female reproductive system. So the penis is what delivers the sperm into the female reproductive system. So basically, that's the work of the penis, is to deliver the sperm into the female reproductive system. Okay, then we have the urethra. The urethra carries semen. So you see the word they are using. You see they are not using sperm. They are not using sperm. They say semen. So the urethra carries semen and urine out of the body. Okay, then we have the scrotum. The scrotum is what holds the testis. So you see, look at the testis. You see the testis is inside the scrotum. So the scrotum is what holds the testis. Let's start again from the top. What is the work of the testis?
It produces sperm.
It produces the sperm and then the hormone testosterone. What is another name for the testis?
The male gonads.
Good. The male gonads. The male gonad. That's the testis. The male gonad. Okay, great. Now, what is the work of the epididymis?
It stores the sperm
and mature sperm.
Good. It stores sperm. It's a point for storage of sperm and maturation of what? Sperm. So it stores the sperm. It also matures the sperm. Or how about the vas difference? What does it do?
It
It
transfers
transfers
Transports them from the epididymis to the
It
the
transports sperm from the epididymis to the urethra. Is that okay?
urethra.
It transports. So if we ask you, and you should expect a lot of MCQ from areas like this. So if we ask you which structure in the male reproductive system stores and matures sperm, then they are talking about epididymis. Is that okay? Which structure transports sperm from the epididymis to the urethra?
vas
The
The
vas
vas difference. Is that okay? Okay. How about the seminal vesicle? What does it do?
it adds seminal fluid to nourish the sperm. Then
Good.
form
semen.
Good. It adds seminal fluid to the sperm to form what?
sperm, semen, sorry.
Semen. Yes. So when the sperms are in the testes or they are produced in the testes, you can't call them semen. When we add the seminal fluid to it, before you can now call them semen. So when we say semen, it means the sperm have gotten to the seminal vesicle and it has added the fluid to it for it to become what? Semen. Is that okay? So the sperm in the urethra, when a sperm is in the urethra, what name will you give to it?
Semen.
When a sperm is inside the urethra, what name will you give to it?
Semen.
Semen. Yes, semen. Yes, semen. Okay, so when a male ejaculates and brings out sperm, can you say it's a sperm?
No, please.
No, you can't call it a sperm. And that is what a lot of people do. So you will now educate them.
Okay.
Yes, you will now educate them that we don't call it sperm. We call it semen. Is that okay? Yes, we call it semen. Okay. Great. All right. That is fine. Good. So the prostate gland, what does it do?
It adds fluid to the semen.
What type
It
of
produces
fluid?
Yeah.
prostatic
What
fluid.
type of fluid? Yes, prostatic fluid.
Prostatic
It
fluid.
secretes
It
the prostatic
helps the
fluid. And what does
sperm
that fluid,
move
or
and
that fluid,
survive.
what does it do?
It helps
It
the sperm.
helps the sperm to move and survive.
It helps the sperm to move and survive. That is great. That is great. What fluid does it produce?
The prostatic
It
fluid.
produces prostatic fluid.
And what does the prostatic fluid do?
It
It
helps
it
the
helps
sperm to move and survive.
It helps the sperm to move. Okay. How about the penis?
it delivers
It
the sperm
delivers
into the female
into
reproductive
the
system.
reproductive
What's the main function of the penis?
to deliver
Delivering
sperm.
semen into the female reproductive system.
It reproductive serves as a system.
So now what that means is that now you know the main function of the penis. So you have to be educating people on the main function of the penis. So the main function of the penis is to deliver sperm into the female. That's the primary function. Every other thing is secondary. Is that okay? And also to deliver sperm into the female reproductive system. Now the urethra. What does the
Sir,
urethra do? Yes, please.
sir, please,
Yes.
I have a question. You
Yes,
said
please. Ask your question, please.
the function of the penis is to produce or deliver sperm, but
Yeah.
you said at the point that the sperm will reach the
Come out.
uterus, yeah, or reaches the seminal vesicle, it becomes a semen when the seminal fluid is being produced. So, will the
Yes.
penis produce the semen or still produce the
It's
sperm?
semen. So it's good that you are learning. That's why I told you that in some textbooks. Is that okay? So remember when I started, I made an emphasis that in some textbooks, even after the sperm have come out, they call it sperm. But the actual thing is a semen. Is that okay? So don't worry about the clarification. I understand you. Yes, it's the semen. But you shouldn't be surprised, even seeing those things in textbooks. Is that okay? Yes, and that's why I made an earlier emphasis for you to know the actual thing. Is that okay? In most textbooks, they will still be using sperm, but you should understand that when it comes out, it's semen. Is that okay? Yes, so it's good that you are clarifying. That shows that you understand what we are discussing. Yes, so ideally it should be it delivers semen, right? Is that not how you want to? Yes, ideally it should be it delivers semen to it delivers semen into the female reproductive system. That is fine. Good. Now the urethra, what does it do? It carries semen and urine out of what? Out of the body. Yes. Yes, that's the urethra. Okay, and there's the urethra. There's the urethra from here. So you see, from the bladder is bringing the urine, and it's the same urethra that is also going to bring the sperm or the semen. Okay, so from the bladder is going to bring the urine, and from the seminal vesicle tract is going to bring the semen. Yes, yes,
Sir,
yes.
please, what topic are we treating?
What is hot?
Please, what topic are we treating?
Hey, who is asking that question?
Okay.
We are looking at reproductive system. Why you just joined us, eh?
Yes, sir.
All right, we are doing reproductive system. So
Okay.
yes, we are doing reproductive system.
Okay,
All
sir.
right,
Thank
that
you.
is fine. That is fine. Okay, so we have the urethra. The urethra carries semen and urine out of the body, and then we have the scrotum. The scrotum holds and protects us, the testis. Okay, another function of the scrotum is that it keeps the testis at the right temperature. Okay, because the testis has to have a certain temperature for sperm production to be efficient, and the scrotum ensures that is achieved by the testis. That right temperature is achieved by the testis. So one function of the scrotum is that it holds and protects the testis. Is that okay? Again, it also keeps the testis at the right temperature for the sperm production. Is that okay? Okay. What are the organs of the male reproductive system?
The
Mention all
testes,
the organs of the male reproductive system.
testes, epididymis, vas
So we have the
deferens,
testis, which is the main.
seminal vesicle,
Okay.
prostate
Okay, then.
gland,
Okay.
penile, urethra, and
Urethra and
scrotum.
scrotum.
Okay, that is fine. That is fine. Which organ holds and protects the testis and keep it at the right temperature?
Scrotum.
Okay, that is fine. Which of them produces the prostatic fluid that nourishes the sperm?
Prostate gland.
Prostate gland.
Prostate gland. Okay, which of them add fluid
Hey,
to nourish the sperm and form the semen?
the seminal vesicle.
Okay, the seminal vesicle. Okay, which of them transports the sperm from the epididymis to the urethra?
The vas.
That's difference. Yes. Yes, the vast difference. And which of them produces the sperm?
The testes.
Good. Which organ
Okay.
helps to deliver sperm into the female reproductive system?
Penis.
Good.
The
Excellent. So the
penis.
penis helps to deliver semen into the female reproductive system. So basically, we can ask you to list the organs of the male reproductive system. So you just list about 5 of them. Is that okay? Yes. So these are basically the organs of the male reproductive. Now let's look at the organs of the female reproductive system. Okay, so first look at the diagram first. So this is the female reproductive system. This is how it looks like. So this is the female reproductive system. So the female reproductive system, you see, we have the ovaries. You see, these are the ovaries. These are the ovaries. Okay, so you see, we have the ovary. These are the ovaries. There are 2, the right and then the
Sir,
left.
please, your network is not good.
Oh, are you sure? Can you all hear me? Are you all having the same problem?
No.
Oh, then it means it's from your area. Yeah.
Please, sir.
Yes, once they can hear, then it means it's coming from your end.
So leave the group and come back.
Yes, so I'll change your direction, change your position a little. Try and change your position sometimes. So
Okay.
the ovaries, these are the ovaries. Okay, then we have the fallopian tube. These are the fallopian tubes. Okay, fallopian tube. Some books they call it uterine tubes. Uterine tubes is the same thing. When we say uterine tubes, is the same thing. Okay, either fallopian tubes or uterine tubes. Is that okay? Fallopian tubes or uterine tubes. Okay, so these are the ovaries, and then we have the uterine tubes. Okay, uterine tubes. Okay, so we have the ovaries. These are the ovaries, and we have the uterine tubes. How many uterine tubes do we have? Can you see them?
You have 2.
Yes, we have 2. So we have the right one and we have the left. How many ovaries are you seeing?
2.
Yes, there are also 2. And then we have the uterus. There's the uterus. This one is what we call the uterus. Uterus. Okay, so this is the uterus. Okay, now the lower portion of the uterus is the lower part of the uterus is what we call the cervix. So get it to, especially for the midwifery student, reproductive anatomy, don't play with it. Yes, so the lower portion of the uterus is what we call the cervix. So the cervix is actually part of the uterus. So when we say cervix, we are looking at the lower portion of the uterus. That's the cervix. Is that okay? Or you can say the lower part of the uterus. That is what we call the cervix. Or the lower part of the uterus that joins the vagina. That's what we call the cervix. So the entire structure you are seeing over here, this one, this is what we call the uterus. This one, this whole structure. But the lower part here, the down part here, the downmost part, or the lower part is what we call the uterus. Sorry, the cervix. Okay. So the entire structure, this entire structure is what? Is the uterus. And the lower portion or the lower part of the uterus is called the cervix. In some books, they will say the lower part of the uterus that joins the vagina is called the cervix. Is that okay? Then we have the vagina. The vagina is the muscular canal. It's responsible for menstrual flow. Again, it's also responsible for sexual intercourse. And again, it's responsible for childbirth. Is that okay? 3 functions. Is that okay? Great. Then we have the vulva. The vulva is the external part of the female reproductive system. The external part. So when we are looking at the female reproductive system, the parts that you can see. So if a lady is lying there, the parts that you can see, that is what we call the vulva. That one, you can't call it vagina. The vagina is inside. The internal part. Okay, the canal inside, that's the vagina. But the external part that if a woman is there, you can see, that is the part that we call the vulva. Okay, the external part of the female reproductive system. Okay, and that is the part that part is actually a protective part. It protects the vagina itself. Is that okay? Great. And this is the part. Those are, so the vulva, these are the parts forming the vulva. So the labia minora, the labia majora. Yes.
Sir, I have a question.
Oh, yes. Ask your question, please. Go ahead and ask your question.
So, yeah, for the vulva, you said it is the external part of the female reproductive system.
Yeah, that is fine. Yes. Of course. Why you doubt that?
Yeah,
Of
because
course.
you
Of course,
said
it's the external part. Can you see the ovaries when the lady is lying there?
no.
Of course. So it's the external part of the female reproductive system. Or you wanted us to say the female reproductive organs. No, you can't say that. It's the external part. It's the part of the female reproductive system you can see. That's the meaning of the external we are using. Is that okay? Yes, it shouldn't be difficult to comprehend. So it's the external part of the female reproductive system. So if a female is there, that's the part you can see. It's the vulva. If a female is lying there, you can see the vagina. That is the inner canal. You can see the ovaries. You can see the fallopian tubes. You can see the uterus, but you see the vulva. Yes. So there is the external part of the female reproductive system. Is that okay? But fine. In fact, the female reproductive system too is broad, because in some books, they even classify the breast as part of the female reproductive system. But still, The vulva is the external part of the female reproductive system. Is that okay? Yes, because the breast is just, just a minimal part of the reproductive system. Okay, so when we say the vulva, basically that's the external part of the female reproductive. And what we mean by that is the part that you can see. Is that okay? Yes, the part that you can see. Okay, I think I used to have a diagram bio, but I have to take it out. I was having the vulva, natural one, but I've taken it out of my slide. But it's fine. So, but basically, this is how it looks like. So, this is the vulva. So, this is the labia majora. And then we have the labia minora. Okay, so from the minora, if the person is a virgin, you would notice the hymen to be there before we have the vaginal opening. So this is the vaginal opening. And then at the top, we have the urethral opening over there. So this is the urethral opening. And then we have the mons pubis. When we say the mons pubis, it's like at the topmost part of the female, okay, where they have the hair getting closer to the vagina. That part is where we call the mons pubis. Is that okay? Then we have the clitoris. Don't pretend as if you people don't know these things. Joanna, you people know these things already.
We know.
Yes. And don't do as if you don't know
We
this.
don't know.
Sound properly.
We know.
You know these things as if it's something new that I'm teaching in the world.
We don't
No,
know.
we
Sir.
don't know.
We
It's
don't
our
know.
own
We don't
property.
know.
Eh? The
Sir, we don't
gentleman,
know.
don't do
We don't
yourself as if
know.
you people don't know this thing.
You are
This is
who?
what
Sir, we
We
don't
don't
know.
know.
We don't
Hey.
know.
Sir, we don't know. We don't know.
okay, that is
Sir,
fine.
Adepa, you know.
I think no my jeans sir. Because I don't know all children. Omunti bida.
Yes,
Hey, no.
I'm
Hey, no.
surprised as if it's something new that I'm teaching in the world. These are things that you people know already. So yes, so the mons pubis. Good.
Pay
So the
attention
mons
to that.
pubis. The mons pubis is where we have usually you see the hairs will grow over that area, getting closer to the vulva itself. Is that okay? Then we have the clitoris. Is that okay? We have the clitoris. We have the labia majora. Now we will look at all these parts into detail. We just want to look at basically the major organs that forms the female reproductive system. But we are going to look at all these parts more extensively. Then we have the labia minora. Okay, so the labia majora, the labia minora, all these are forming the vulva. Is that okay? Then we have the urethral opening and then the vaginal opening itself. We have the clitoris. Is that okay? So we have the mons pubis, the clitoris, the urethral opening, the labia majora, the labia minora, the hymen. Okay, great. So this is basically the organs of the female reproductive system, or these are the female reproductive organs. So we have the ovaries, we have the fallopian tubes, we have the uterus, we have the cervix, we have the vagina, we have the vulva, we have the breast or mammary glands. You see, I was telling you in some books. Yes, and of course, the mammary glands are also part of the female reproductive system. Yes, we classify it under the female reproductive system. When we say mammary gland, we are looking at the breast. Your breast, for the females, the breast is part of your reproductive system. Is that okay? Yes. So the breast is classified under reproductive system. We consider it as a reproductive system organ. Okay, so the mammary glands or the breast. Okay, and it's the breast that produces and secretes milk that helps to nourish a baby after birth. Okay, so after a woman has delivered, it's the breast that produces and secretes milk to nourish the baby after birth. Okay, then we have the vulva. Which one is the vulva?
The external part of the
External part of the
Female reproductive system.
Good. The external part of the female
Part of the
reproductive
female
system.
reproductive
Good.
system.
The external part of the female reproductive system. That is great. Now, which one is the cervix?
The cervix is the lower portion of the uterus that joins the vagina.
That
Good.
opens the vagina.
Good. Excellent. So,
Okay.
So the cervix is the lower portion of so the cervix is part of the uterus. So in most books, they will say is the lower portion of the uterus that joins the vagina. That's the cervix. How about the uterus?
It's where implantation occurs.
Good.
And fertilized
Good.
egg,
That's where.
implant, and baby
Good.
growth
Plant.
during
Excellent.
pregnancy.
Good. So it's not where fertilization takes place. Fertilization takes place in the fallopian tubes. Okay. It's where the fertilized egg will go and sleep. So those of you who don't understand implantation, that's the meaning. So it's like eventually, or in simple terms, after eggs have been fertilized, where they will go and lie. That's what we mean by implantation. Is that okay? So when fertilization takes place in the fallopian tube, the fertilized egg will go and lie inside the uterus. Okay, and it's within the uterus that the fetus will form. The baby, the fetus. So if the baby is still in the woman, we call it fetus. Okay, in anatomy, we call that fetus. That is where it will form. It will implant. Is that okay? So when we say uterus, uterus is where fertilized egg implants. And that is where it will grow. Is that okay? It will implant there. So eventually that is where it will grow. Is that okay? Okay. And as a midwife, all these are things you shouldn't play with. Reproductive anatomy, these are the things that belongs to you. You don't play with these things. If your reproductive anatomy is not good as a midwifery student, you struggle until you complete. Because everything you'll be doing when you get to second year, third year will be about reproductive anatomy. And in fact, you even do reproductive anatomy again as a course on its own, the midwives. You can ask your seniors, you do reproductive anatomy again, alone as a course. When you get to, I think your level 202 or your level 301, you do reproductive anatomy alone as a new course on its own. Okay, so it's something you shouldn't play with as a midwife. By now, you should start reading reproductive anatomy on a different level. Is that, yes? Yes. Do you have a question?
No, sir.
Oh, that is fine. Great. So basically, these are the organs of the female reproductive system. So look at them. This is also the female reproductive system. So you see, we have the uterus. This is the uterus. So you see how the uterus look like. This is the uterus. And look at the ovaries. And this is the fallopian tubes. Okay, so this is the uterus. This is the ovaries. This is the ovaries. This is the fallopian tubes. What's another name for the fallopian tubes?
Uterine tubes.
Good, uterine tubes. Okay, uterine tubes. Then we have, there's the vagina. There's the vagina. There's the vagina opening. Okay. There's the clitoris. This is more like, this diagram is showing a cross-sectional view. But this one is clearer. So you see, these are the ovaries. We have the ovaries over here. This is, which one is this? Which one is this? The one I'm going around.
The uterus.
Good, the uterus. Good, the uterus. And the lower portion from here to here is called what? From this part to this part is called
The cervix.
the cervix. So the lower portion of the uterus is called the cervix. The lower portion. So when we say the cervix, the lower portion of what? The uterus, the cervix. Okay. Now look at this. Look at this. You see, from here to here is the cervix. So you see there is an opening over here from the upper part of the uterus into the cervix. Can you see there is an opening over here from the upper part of the uterus into we call it eternal os. Say eternal os.
Eternal os.
What is eternal os? How will you describe eternal os? When we say eternal os, what does it mean?
It is the opening
Of the
of the uterus that joins the cervix.
Good, excellent. So the opening from the upper portion of the uterus into the cervix. Is that okay? And then we have the external os. The external os is the opening from the lower portion of the cervix into the vagina. You see the cervix? This is the cervix. So from here to here is the cervix. Here to here. From this part to this part is the cervix. So the opening, so from here to here is the upper uterus. From here, the lower uterus is what we call the cervix. So from here to here is the upper uterus. So the opening from the upper uterus into the cervix, that's the internal os. And the opening from the cervix into the vagina, that is the external os. Is that okay? So here, this part, you see here, this is what we call external os. Say external os.
External os.
What's the difference between internal os and external os?
The opening from the uterus to the cervix. And
No,
So
I won't accept it.
the
I won't accept your definition. Debbie. Be
the
specific.
internal os is the upper portion of the uterus.
Come again.
Like
Is the opening from the upper part of the uterus
opening from
into
the upper portion
Into
of the
the-
uterus
into the
into the
into the cervix.
good. That is excellent. Now that
into
you've
the
given me,
cervix.
if you say is the opening from the uterus, it's wrong. If you say is the opening from the uterus, it's wrong. Is the opening
Yes, sir.
from the upper portion of the uterus into the cervix. You get it? How about the external os? Oh, Perpetua, your environment is very noisy. Perpetua.
The opening of
All right. How about the external os? What does it mean?
Let me try again. It's the opening of the lower portion.
Go ahead and try again. Yes, go ahead and try again. I'm listening.
It's the opening of the lower portion of the uterus into the vagina.
Opening of the lower portion of the no. You are not wrong, but this time the lower portion. Why won't you use the name of the lower portion? What's the name of the lower portion?
The cervix.
Yes, so why won't you use the name of the lower portion rather, but you are rather saying the lower portion? That's a mistake.
Okay, so
the
it's
lower portion in anatomy, we want you to call it cervix.
Okay, so it's the opening of the cervix into the vagina.
Good. So the opening of the cervix into the vagina. You see, if you are not careful, it will confuse you. So please explain again. What is internal os?
Right.
So you said external os.
You've spoken. Let's another person speak.
Hello, sir.
Yes, go ahead. I'm listening, please. Go ahead.
Can you say that the internal os is the upper end of the cervix and the external os is the lower end of the cervix?
Oh, Adam, can you amplify your voice? It's like you are far away from your speaker.
Yes. Please, I was like, can you say the internal os is the upper end of the cervix and the external os is the
It's not the upper end though. Internal os is an opening. So don't change the name. It's an opening. So don't use end. If you say end in anatomy, we will not understand it. So use the opening. It's an opening. The os is actually an opening. It's not an end. Is that okay? Anatomists are very technical people. Oh. If you go and say end, they won't agree with you. It's actually an opening. It's like a place where something open to enter another place. So you can't say it's an end. I understand why you want to say it that way. Probably that will help you to remember. But the actual thing is opening. It's not an end. Is that okay? So, but it's fine. If that will help you to remember at your level, is good. But in your writing, know that it's not an end. It's an opening. Is that okay? So more like a tube. It's an opening. Okay. So who want to explain what's the difference between internal os and external os?
Sir, I want to explain.
Go ahead. I'm listening. Go ahead and explain.
So, sir, we said that the internal os is the opening from the upper portion of the uterus that joins the cervix.
Good.
And then the external os is the opening of the cervix into the vagina.
That is excellent. So the opening of the cervix into the vagina. That is an excellent explanation. Is that okay? Yes. So now you know the internal os, you know the external os, and we can ask you questions on this in an MCQ. Okay, we can ask you questions on the internal os and the external os in an MCQ. So you have to take note of. You have to take note of it. So this is the this is the uterus. So this one is the uterus. And remember, I mentioned that the lower portion of the uterus is called what? The cervix. Okay, don't forget that one. Okay, great. So, and if you take the uterus, so this is what I was showing. So look at the diagram is even here. This is the diagram I wanted to show you. So you see, this is what we call the mons pubis. This one. You see where we have the hairs, the topmost part of the vulva here. The topmost part of the vulva. That's where we call the mons pubis. Okay, then we have the clitoris. You see, this diagram is better than the first one. Then we have the labium majora, which is the part closest to your body itself. That's the labium majora. Then we have the labium minora, which is the inner part getting closer to the vaginal opening. That's the labium or labia minora. Then we have the urethral opening. So you see, we have the urethral opening at the top. And on top of the urethral opening, we have the clitoris. Then we have the vaginal opening below the urethral opening. Then we have the perineum over here. The perineum is more like the space between the vulva and then the anal canal or the anus. Is that area? So this area. So you see, we have the vulva over here. The space between the vulva and then the anus or the anal canal. That is what we call the perineum. Is that okay? Good. So we have, so pay attention. In fact, you should be able to label this diagram. All these diagrams, especially the midwives, if you learn how to draw and label these diagrams. You people have to take these diagrams very personal. Is that okay? So we have the mons pubis, we have the clitoris, we have the urethral opening, vaginal opening, perineum, we have the anus, we have the labia majora, we have the labia minora. Okay, and this is what we call the mammary gland, or also another name for the mammary gland.
The breast.
Good, breast. The breast. Yes, the breast. The breast. That's the mammary gland. So over here to look, there's the ovaries. We have the ovaries. We have the uterine tubes or the fallopian tubes. There's the uterus. Okay, there's the uterus. There's the uterus. Now the inner, the uterus is also made up of layers. So the uterus is into layers. Okay, the innermost layer of the uterus, we call it the endometrium. Say endometrium.
Endometrium.
So the uterus is made up of layers. So you see, it's like a whole body of structure on its own. This is what I'm talking about, the uterus. So it has it's made up of what? Layers. So we have the first layer, the middle layer, and the last layer. The first layer, which is the innermost layer. So meaning that is where the newborn, the fetus will go and implant. The fertilized egg will go and implant. Okay, we call that layer the endometrium. Then the middle layer, we call it myometrium. Say myometrium.
Myometrium.
Say it again. Say myometrium.
Myometrium.
The last layer, we call it perimetrium. Say perimetrium.
Perimetrium.
Or if they ask you how many layers do the uterus have? 3 layers. Which one is the innermost layer? Which one is the innermost layer?
Endometrium. Myometrium.
Outermost layer. Which one is the outermost layer? The outermost layer. Perimetrium.
Perimetrium.
Good. Perimetrium. Okay.
Perimetrium.
The outermost layer of the uterus.
It wasn't labeled.
Yes, it's not here. That is why I'm mentioning it. That's why I mentioned it to you. Yes. Don't expect it's not everything here that is in the diagram. Yes, that's why I'm mentioning it to you so that you get to know of it. So you can write it down. Yes, perimetrium. So you can write it. So we have 3 layers. the endometrium, the perimetrium. That's the outermost layer of the uterus. What are the organs of the female reproductive system?
The ovaries, fallopian tube, or uterine,
Fallopian tubes. The fallopian tubes.
or
The uterus,
The uterine tubes.
the uterus,
the
The
cervix,
uterus.
the cervix,
The
the
cervix.
the
vagina,
The
vagina,
vagina.
the vulva,
the vulva,
The vulva.
the
and then
breast,
the mammal
or
gland.
mammal.
And the mammary glands. Hey, the mammary glands. Yes, what structures forms the vulva?
The minor.
Hey, if you're a lady, you not know this, it's a serious problem. You have to sit down. This topic, it belongs to you, the ladies. When we are dealing with female reproductive system, when we are dealing with male, it belongs to the males.
So the structure that forms the vulva is the labia and then the clitoris.
No.
The vagina opening.
Yes, the vaginal opening, the urethral opening,
the mons pubis,
the labia,
the mons pubis,
the labia, and the hymen.
Oh, why do you like combining things? Anatomy, explain. Don't say labium. There are two. So say labia minora, labia majora. Don't combine it as one.
Minora,
yes, separate majora. It. Don't do it shortcut. Say the two. Labia majora, labia minora. Then you come to the mons pubis, the clitoris. You know, the vaginal opening, the urethral opening. So let's go back to. So here is it. Is that okay? So here is it. So basically, when we say vulva, it simply means the part of the female reproductive system that you can see, the external part. And the external part, you can see the clitoris. Yes. If a female is there, you can clearly see the clitoris. Is that okay? You can see the mons pubis. Okay. You can see the labia minora. You can see the labia majora. Is that okay? If you pay attention to, you will see the urethral opening. If you can't see the urethral opening as nurses, how will you pass catheter? Yes, you